So let's take a moment to talk about when do you talk with a potential employer about your disability? Sometimes people call that disclosing your disability. When do you do that? Why do you do that? Should you not do that? I'm going to argue that you should, and let me share with you why. So, when you're in an interview, all interview questions are some form of these two questions. Can you do the job? And can I trust you? And when you disclose your disability, when you share upfront that you have a disability, that actually helps build trust with an employer because you're sharing something that's difficult and that might negatively affect you. And so if you're willing to do that now, you're going to be willing to do that on the job, which means that they can trust you. It actually works in your favor. It's kind of a little reverse psychology thing, but it's true. All right. The other couple of reasons why. So there's this thing I like to call the expectation differential. And let me explain what that means. So let's say you're going in for an interview, right? And you're going to interview for this job, and the employer is looking at your resume prior to you coming in. So they have this expectation of you, right? And you come in and you don't let them know that you have a disability. So you come in, you're meeting their expectations, right? And then you let them know that you have a disability. And then you've come in just a little bit under their expectations, because when they hear you have a disability, people are naturally prejudiced and you just kind of drop a little bit, right? Whereas, let's say you do it the other way. Let's say you let them know up front, prior to the interview, that you have a disability. Because of their natural prejudices, even though you should be here, they're going to think about you right here, right? But because you are skilled and you have some value to offer to the company, you're actually going to exceed their expectations. You're going to come in above that, and they're going to be surprised by that. And you're going to come in above their expectations. So that difference there is going to leave a positive impression. They're like, wow, they're better than what I thought. And that's going to help you immensely in gaining a job, right? So the other thing too is that you want to be able to lose quickly. Here's what I mean by that. If it's a company that has a bad culture, you don't want to work there, and you want to find that out right up front. So if they're going to be too prejudiced to hire someone with a disability, you want to know before you even waste time with an interview. So when you let them know up front that you have a disability, then they're going to be like, well, I don't know, blah, 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 or I don't know if someone like that could work here. Hey, thank you for your time. And you move right along. You want to lose quickly. I'd rather get a firm no than a shaky yes. A shaky yes usually ends up turning into a no a few months later, and it's a huge waste of time and a huge emotional toll on you. It's not worth it. Plus, sometimes you need to find out if they're going to be able to give you accommodations up front, because if they're not capable of giving you accommodations, even if they want to, maybe they're just not a big enough company, they don't have the money for the equipment you need or whatnot, you need to know that up front so that way you don't waste your time or theirs. So that would be why you share that you have a disability up front. Let me share when you do that, okay? So there's going to be two spots where you do that. The first one is in the job development phase. And here's what I mean by that. So the first part is when you're thinking about what sorts of jobs should I be looking for? I call it a targeted job search. So let's say you have a lifting restriction, right? And you can't lift more than 10 pounds. That means that you probably shouldn't go for a construction company job because you're going to be lifting a lot of weight there, right? So you have to try and think about the types of jobs where there's not a lot of lifting involved if you have a lifting restriction. Let's say you have a cognitive disability, maybe a learning disability, right? Nothing wrong with that. Plenty of people with learning disabilities still successful in life, but they should just not go for a doctor type job. You should go for another type of job that fits more of your passions and how you're wired and the things that you're good at. All of us should do the things that we're good at, and we shouldn't try to do the things that we're bad at. We don't want to be a fish that can't climb a tree. You're not trying to do that. Same thing if you have a social disability, right? Where if large crowds make you nervous, or where if it's hard to talk to people, maybe you're on the autism spectrum and you also have some anxiety, right? Or maybe you have PTSD, and so loud noises and other things, or working around the types of people who've been your abuser in the past. You don't want to do that. So in your targeted job search, look for the types of jobs where the limitations of your disability don't conflict with the necessities of the job, with the requirements of the job. That'll handle 80% of the issue right there. The other things that you want to think about, or when you want to do this rather, is during the interview. Right? So let's say the interview's going well. You got good chemistry, but you want to make sure that this is a really good fit. That's when you're going to ask. So let's say if you're paraplegic or quadriplegic, right? That's when you're going to ask, hey, would you mind if we had some accommodating technology? Like if I could use some dictation software, would that be okay? Or if in meetings, rather than taking handwritten notes, would you mind if I just recorded the meeting and then transcribed it later on? How they answer that question is going to tell you if this is the type of place you want to work at or can work at. If they say, yeah, that won't be a problem at all, great, you're moving forward with the interview. If they say, oh, I don't know that would work, okay, well then you know that this is probably not the place for you. Same thing if you've got a lifting restriction, and let's say you want to go work at the front desk of a hotel, right? You're going to ask, hey, I can't really lift more than 10 pounds. Do you see that being an issue in this role? Do you think that I would still be a good fit for your team? At that point in time, they're going to let you know where you're at. Oh no, sometimes we really got to lift these 50-pound boxes. Or they say, oh no, there's always going to be 2 or 3 people here. Someone else can help you lift that. And then you'll know that you can move forward. Same thing for, let's say it's really hard for you and you have PTSD and you've served in the military, right? Maybe you've killed people in military combat before, and so certain things are just really hard for you. Certain types of interactions with people or aggressives, and you can share that, hey, this is what I truly struggle with. Do you foresee that happening in this role? And they're either going to say, no, and we really want to help our veterans. We'd love to have you on board of the team. Or they're going to say, no, this job's actually really hard, and there's going to be some of those times where that's going to happen. It's probably not a good fit for you. You want to know that up front in the interview, so that way you don't get the job and the job's not right and you lose it 6 months from now, either from quitting or from being fired, and the emotional toll and impact of that is too great. But I have found that when you share up front that you have a disability, 1, you tend to come in above their expectations, and then 2, it handles the whole accommodation question during the interview. You get all that sorted out. It's a shorter process, and you're much more set up for success. So in summary, I'd like to remind you, it's a good thing to share that you have a disability and the unique nature of it. And you want to do that up front, so that way you're not wasting your time and you can get to the people who want to hire you exactly the way you are.